The evolution of your marketing will be the catalyst for the evolution of your business, and the evolution of your business will provide you with the freedom to focus on the evolution of your life. This is Evolved Marketing with Andrei and Brian.
Welcome back to another episode of Evolved Marketing Podcast. I am here with my co-host Brian Brewer, and today we have a really special guest. He's gonna be a little different than what we are used to having on the show, but he's gonna give so much valuable information for entrepreneurs out there. He focuses on the boring parts of business, I guess you can say, bookkeeping, hiring VAs, and for the most part, outsourcing. So if you ever felt like you were getting overwhelmed in your business, or if you ever find yourself doing tasks that you don't really want to do anymore, then outsourcing is going to be the best way for you to be successful, for you to accomplish your goals. So this guest that we have today, he's the owner of Econ Balance, Accounts Balance, and the Outsource School. And he's also known for co-founding FreeUp.net in 2015 with an initial investment of $5,000. And he was able to scale that business to $12 million. So without further ado, let's welcome Nathan Hirsch.
Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Nathan. We appreciate your time. And I'm really excited for this interview because, as Andrei said, you focus on the boring parts is kind of the tagline that you use in your little bio that you sent over. So we appreciate that. But those are the important parts, because if those are screwed up, it doesn't matter how much traffic you have. It doesn't matter, how well your sales team is performing. Eventually, everything will fall apart. And you are a lifelong entrepreneur. And it really shows in the way you structure your businesses, create your businesses, and then, of course, exit your businesses. So when you say lifelong entrepreneur, I mean, does this go to selling lemonade on the side of the road at 3 years old, or where did it really start for you?
Yeah, it does. It's funny. I didn't live on a busy street, so I had a lot of failed lemonade stands. But I always wanted to be an entrepreneur from a young age. My parents were teachers. They were always good at saving money and taught me so much about finances. But if I wanted something, I had to pay for it myself. My friends' parents would buy them video games or whatever they wanted. If I wanted a video game, I need to save up my allowance or get a job. And I got my first job when I was 14, 15. I was a head umpire. I worked at a local meat shop, which is kind of funny because I was a vegetarian. But yeah, I was always working and saving up money. And I learned so much about just sales and customer service and how business really works. But I also learned that I did not want to work for someone else, and that I hated having a boss. I hated having a time that I had to be at work every single day. So when I got to college, I started hustling, and I looked at college as a ticking time bomb. I had 4 years to figure out how to start a business that I could survive on. And if not, I was going to have to go out and get a real job. My parents made it very clear that I could not move back home with them once I graduated. So I either had to get a job and pay rent or run a business and pay rent. And those were my options. So I started to buy and sell textbooks, competing with my school bookstore. Actually got a cease and desist letter from my college telling me to knock it off and stop competing with them. And that was my first glimpse into being an entrepreneur. And I opened up an Amazon business from there, and the rest is history.
That's super cool. I mean, a lot of people start really early, but you don't know you're an entrepreneur. Like, you're like, oh, maybe I want to do this, maybe I don't. But that's super awesome that you were doing the lemonade stands, and then your parents supported you, and then they basically told you, hey, you gotta get it together, right? In a way.
Right. And I think like all the boring parts of business is what you struggle with as a young entrepreneur, right? When you're running a company, when you're 20, 21, you're not thinking about bookkeeping. You're not trying to hire people. Like, you're focused on the sexy stuff, like increasing sales and getting new markets and brainstorming business ideas. But after a lot of just disasters and things going wrong because you're not focused on those things, you start to slowly realize how important those are. And I think just like most other entrepreneurs, that's really what happened to me.
Yeah, the bookkeeping and the numbers is so important. Like you said, when you're first getting started, and this might be relevant to a large portion of our audience, you're just like, I want to make some money, right? So I don't have to get a job, or so I can quit my job, or so I can tell my boss to F off, or whatever it is that your goal is. And that's why a lot of people in our audience start with affiliate marketing, because hey, it just makes sense. You only had to focus on a tiny portion of the actual business, which is the marketing aspect. But as things go, as you look to scale, you need to know your numbers, especially if you ever want to run some paid ads, cold traffic, retargeting ads, anything. If you want to start hiring, whether it be closers or VAs, you need to know your numbers, because if you're not hitting those, then what happens when you can't pay your people? It's going to be pretty ugly. So speaking of scaling businesses, which hopefully is everybody's goal, if not today, in the near future, you have the goal of scaling your business. You've scaled a business. You took a business with a $5,000 investment in the business of FreeUp, which I believe was kind of like a way to hire freelancers, if I'm not mistaken. Took it to 12 million,
and then competitor to Upwork and Fiverr.
Yeah, exactly. And then took it to 12 million, and then actually had a successful exit, which I think is really cool. You're really the first guest that we've had that can really speak about the process of scaling a business, so you are able to exit it, right? So what does that look like, not just from the exit standpoint, but from the planning to exit standpoint?
Yeah. So to kind of give a quick background, I mentioned I was selling books. And once I got that season there, my parents were teachers. I didn't want to get kicked out of college. So I pivoted, and I had this Amazon account that I was selling books on. And this was 2008, 2009. So the early wild west days of Amazon. And I started experimenting with different products, and through a lot of trial and error and this concept of drop shipping, which wasn't even called drop shipping back then. I had no money to buy inventory, no place to store inventory, and all these online retailers and manufacturers, they didn't know what e-commerce was. So I told them I could get them sales. They could keep my credit card on file. They ship products where I tell them to, and I could mark it up whatever I wanted. And it was kind of a win for all parties. And through elimination, I realized that couches were too expensive to ship and return, and video games were too hard to make a margin because everyone sells them for the same price. So baby products and home goods, people have babies all the time, and parents will pay anything for their kids, which is ironic because I'm about to have my first kid right now. So I'm buying all the baby products that I used to sell. But I came across the baby product industry, and that business took off, and I quickly became overwhelmed and had to start hiring people. And I hired college kids, and they were super unreliable, which slowly led me into the world of virtual assistants and freelancers, and got really good at hiring VAs for all parts of my business. There wasn't a lot of software back then, so a lot of manual processes. And meanwhile, at the beginning, we're thinking, hey, we're going to take down Amazon and be this next e-commerce giant. Amazon becomes harder, algorithms change, more competition, people become aware of what an Amazon seller really is. And we start to go up and down. We sell 25 million over 6 years, but we peak out at 5 million. The next year we're at 3, then we're at 2, then we're at 2.5, and we're selling other people's products. We're just kind of adjusting to Amazon's algorithm all the time. We're not really growing. But we had all these VAs and freelancers, and we started to network with other entrepreneurs for the first time. For the first few years, it was very secretive. We had kind of discovered Amazon, and we didn't want to share it because we were young entrepreneurs that didn't know what we were doing. So we started offering these VAs and freelancers to other e-commerce sellers, eventually other entrepreneurs, and that business took off. And this was fun for us because it was our first B2B business, right? Instead of just relying on Amazon to get us sales, we had to create our own website and learn SEO and partnerships and podcasts and all the stuff that goes into driving traffic for your own B2B business. And when we start any business, we build it to be sellable in the sense of we hire really good people. We had team leaders that would handle customer service with a team underneath them. We had team leaders that would handle recruitment and getting more VAs and freelancers on the platform, and a team underneath them, and billing and bookkeeping and operations, which in that part was filling tickets and placing VAs and freelancers with clients. And we also made a really good decision to hire a bookkeeper from day one, probably one of the best decisions we ever made, because not only could we make good decisions every month based on what the numbers would tell us, but when we went to sell the business, we had 4 years of immaculate books dating back to the first day. And that didn't happen with our Amazon business. We were always behind. We tried doing books ourselves. We would dump it on our CPA at the end of the year. And so we had good people. We had clean books. And then the last piece of it, which I think gets overlooked, people would always tell me like, hey, I was the face of FreeUp, so I would never be able to sell it. Well, I was the face from a marketing standpoint, but the operations ran without me. I could go away for 3 weeks and people would still sign up and fulfill freelancers, and customer service would run and all that. And from a marketing standpoint, I'm pretty easy to replace. Like the people that bought us, they came in with their own marketing team and their own marketing strategies. And that's a pretty easy flip. But if I was stuck in the day-to-day operation, the business didn't run unless I was actually doing the fulfillment, that's a very tough business to sell. So that's kind of how we set up our companies. Connor and I work on the marketing and the partnerships and all of that and driving traffic. We set up a good team where operation is fulfilled, and we have clean books from day one.
That's super interesting. I mean, you went from Amazon to creating your own basically business almost by accident, I guess, because you already had those VAs with you, your freelancers. And then where were you able to find those VAs, like those people to work for you? Were those like outside the United States, or were there people like in here in the States?
Yeah. So whenever you start a marketplace, you've got a little chicken or the egg situation, right? You need clients to hire whatever or to buy whatever you're selling, and then you need to be able to fulfill that with supplies. In our case, VAs and freelancers. But we had a little advantage because we had all these VAs and freelancers from our Amazon business that we trusted, that we were using, and not all of them were full time. Some of them were even seasonal because e-commerce, you get really busy towards the end of the year. So we had these initial people ready to go that we trusted, that we could put our name behind, and we would give them out to our initial clients. Especially, we're a big fan of minimum viable products. So we gave free VA hours to our initial clients to prove, hey, our VAs are awesome, and got feedback and use that to adjust. And so we kind of had the supply first, but then we quickly ran out of VAs and freelancers. So then we had to build a recruitment team. And just like we would go on podcasts in front of e-commerce sellers to get clients, we would go on podcasts for in front of Filipino VAs and people that teach how to be a VA. And just like we would have partners with e-commerce software companies, we would have partnerships with Time Doctor and VA tracking companies and get in front of them from that way. So the marketplace was about 40% Philippines, 40% US, and 20% scattered, mostly because we just had a lot of relationships in the Philippines. And obviously I live in the US. But it was a constant market effort that you kind of had to market on both sides. And you never wanted to have more clients than VAs or more VAs than clients, because that would lead to a lot of unhappy people.
That's interesting. So you were kind of with FreeUp, you were kind of just like a marketplace, right? You didn't have any of these VAs on your payroll necessarily. It was just you acted as a way for people to come together, correct?
Yeah, I mean, that's the beauty of the business model, right? Like you don't have to do the fulfillment. Let's say I assign a VA to you, the VA, I'm not checking in with the VA. The VA is not reporting to me. I'm not training them. I'm not managing them. Now, we had great customer service. If even the smallest thing went wrong, we would jump in and make sure that it was right, and both sides were happy and felt like they were treated fairly. But that allowed us to be very scalable, because we could have an internal team that eventually was about 30 people, no US employees, all VAs in the Philippines, but we could have thousands of VAs and freelancers on the platform because it wasn't an agency model where we were managing every single project.
That's interesting. So there's some parallels here that I'm identifying between your business model with FreeUp and Amazon. And what I mean by that is people, there are Amazon sellers. They sell on Amazon. Sometimes they fulfill directly from their warehouses. They're not actually storing products on Amazon. Now, that might not be a majority, but that's part of the Amazon business. And what Amazon does is they really act as the trust or the fail safe, right? And I've seen that in the affiliate marketing industry. It's, hey, if you're promoting your own products on your own store, you might get a 2% conversion rate. If you're promoting products on Amazon, you might get a lower commission, but you're getting a 12% conversion rate. That's because of the trust. And so that's kind of what you had with FreeUp, is you were the fail safe, you were the trust. What point did you take this idea that kind of not fell into your lap, because that diminishes a little bit, but you saw kind of a gap in the market, you had this supply and you filled it. At what point did this, become a business where it's like, oh boy, I wonder if we can sell this thing? Did people reach out to you? Did you start reaching out? What does that look like? Because I really don't know much about exiting a business. I'd love to hear your side of the story.
Yeah, so we quickly grew. We did $1 million in the first year, 5 million in the second, 9 in the third, and then 12 in the fourth. And this was 2019. So we didn't go into 2019 saying, hey, we need to sell this thing by the end of the year. At the same time, we knew the business was very sellable. It was very lean, no US employees, very profitable, very cash flow positive. It checked recurring revenue. It checked a lot of the boxes that we personally like as business owners. So we kind of knew that people could be interested in it as well. And we actually got approached by one of our clients, the Hoth, David Martin, Mark Hargrove. They own a conglomerate of businesses. The most well-known one is the Hoth. But they reached out and they said, hey, we use FreeUp. We like FreeUp. We want to get into the VA freelancer space. We think it'll support the other businesses that we have. We don't start businesses, we buy businesses, and we would love to talk about being acquired. And like any other opportunity, we kind of heard them out and answered their questions and had a good initial call with them. And what really helped on the initial call is we knew our numbers inside and out. So when they asked us questions, we knew things. We didn't have to go back and look at our margins or trends or anything like that. And they ended up making us an offer. And that was tough because we really like FreeUp and we love the internal team, and we kind of weighed factors. We had gotten this business to $12 million a year. To get it to 25, we probably would have had to make drastic changes to our internal processes and even people. And could we have done it? Yes, but there's also a chance that that would have not have gone as well as we thought, or that we would have grown but made less margin or less profit as we grew, which is definitely a risk too. And we had kind of seen from our Amazon business where things are going great, and then all of a sudden something can change and go down pretty quick. When we started FreeUp, there wasn't very much competition. More and more people were starting to pop up again. Again, this is pre-COVID, but the economy was at an all-time high. So we were thinking, all right, this might be a good time to sell. And we had been doing this for 4 years. So it was a life-changing offer that would have put us in a position to have financial freedom for the rest of our life and work on other business, other passions, and also give our team in the Philippines what we planned on, which was $500,000, was a lot of money for them and change their lives. And we didn't want to go to bed at night thinking, hey, we took risk on other people's behalf and screwed them over in some way. So those are just kind of some of the things going through our head. We ended up making the decision to accept the letter of intent. And from there, the due diligence started. And it seemed like we were getting 30 questions from them every single week, and we would respond quickly. We knew our stuff very well. And they even told us we were the fastest people to respond out of all the people that they bought businesses from. But the best advice we ever got was to do due diligence on the buyers, just like they were doing it on us. So we wanted to know everything about them, their net worth, their success, their failures, their plans for FreeUp, how they treat employees, their mentality on customer service. We wanted to know all of that because we didn't want to do something that would hurt our reputation on the line, hurt our internal team. Non-negotiable for us was that large amount of money paid to them, but also that they would all keep their jobs. And we wanted to sell it to good people that would honor their word. And we didn't want to argue with them for years after the sale or end up in a lawsuit. We wanted to sell it, and everyone made the best decision possible based on the information available, and everyone be professional, honor their word, make it hopefully a win-win for everyone and move on. And the due diligence lasted months. Once the lawyers got involved, that lasted months. No one's fault, but like for us, it was the biggest moment of our life. For the lawyers, it's another Tuesday. They got deals going on. They got vacations to go on, and their lawyers are trying to protect them. Our lawyers are trying to protect us. So months of back and forth there and waiting to respond. And while this is going on, and this was the most stressful 6 months of my life, you're thinking every day, this deal could fall through. They could pull out at any time. So my partner and I every day would remind each other, stay focused on the business, pretend like we're not selling it, grow the company, because if the deal falls through, we don't want to just be neglecting it for months. We want a good business to fall back on. And to our credit, we had our best month in October, the month before we sold it in November. Finally, the lawyers both agreed on the contract writing, and my partner and I went to Tampa. I was in Florida. My partner's in Colorado. He flew to Orlando, and we drove out to Tampa and met up in their office, signed the paperwork, got wired the money, which was crazy, and then had to meet with our team right afterwards and tell them part of our deal was they could not talk to our team in any way until the deal was done. So we had to inform our team, and it was super emotional, and we had to tell everyone 100 times that their jobs were secure. And that's kind of how it went down. And I mean, to Mark and David's credit, like they honored they're honored their word. We couldn't have sold it to better people. They paid us and our team every penny. They kept our team on. And don't forget, COVID hit a few months later, and it would have been easy for them to say, hey, like, this was bad timing. We got screwed over in some way. We don't need to honor our word, whatever it is. But they took it like professionals, and they were like, hey, like, we didn't know COVID was coming. They didn't know COVID was coming. It's something you just have to deal with. And we all just made the best decision possible at the time. So I know I'm rambling, but that's kind of how it went out for 6 months.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
It probably was like a super stressful time period of your life. And at the same time, this company that you created, it was your baby, you get me? And then you're letting go, and then you're thinking about your legacy, like what's going to happen in the future. And so the deal went through, you sold the business. How did your life change right after that?
Yeah, to comment on your part, I think a lot of entrepreneurs, they think that the ending of the company is going to be some kind of like round of applause or award show, or have some kind of ceremonial ending that says something about their legacy. And usually that doesn't happen. And I've kind of seen it firsthand. Like, my mom ran a nonprofit, and she was a director there, and she built this thing from the ground up. And her board of directors at the end really forced her to retire. And it led her to a really bitter taste in her mouth. And like, she's fine. She was able to retire and all of that, but they pretty much just cut her off from her baby that she grew. And my aunt, who's an entrepreneur, she had this whole succession plan to sell it to one of her employees, and her employee backed out at the last second, and she ended up having to sell it to pennies on the dollar to some other company that ran into the ground, and her legacy from that was gone. So a lot of times it doesn't end the way that you think it was. So you would. So I feel super fortunate that we sold it to really good people and that we had a good ending. And I mean, personally, it was life changing. I'm not the kind of person to go out and buy a Lamborghini, or like, I still buy my clothes at Goodwill. Like, there's certain things that I just don't value, like clothes and cars and stuff like that. But it allowed us to buy our second house in Colorado and put a lot of money in the S&P 500. And my wife and I became foster parents. So we've had foster teens in our house, and a lot of things that you take for granted, like loving parents and food on the table, we're able to give to other people that didn't have that opportunity. And then it allowed us to brainstorm and try different businesses with a lot less stress. I mean, businesses fail, and we got a little lucky with Amazon going well and FreeUp going well, but it allowed us to start our other companies and brainstorm a lot of bad ideas over the next few years before coming across bookkeeping and outsource school. And it allows business to just be fun, where, hey, we don't have to hustle. Like, I'm retired from traveling to conferences. I won't travel for work. I'm only interested in running businesses that don't require me to go anywhere or do anything unless it's remote. So there's definitely a lot of life changes, but it's not something that I just went out and blew all my money on a car or something.
Yeah, it's the freedom that you get and the security, I think, that really is the thing that's not talked about when we talk about growing a business to whatever our goals are. So you have this experience now. You've exited a company that helped bring freelancers and VAs together with business owners. You obviously have expertise in this. Now you're maybe looking for the next thing, whatever that move was, however that came to fruition in your mind. Eventually you got over to Outsource School, which I think is incredibly relevant to a lot of folks in our audience, because you're teaching people how to hire VAs. Why did you start Outsource School? What was the motivation? Did you see a need in the market? What brought that business about?
Yeah, so it's funny. We sold FreeUp in November 2019. The original plan was to take a year off, travel the world. I didn't think I would see my business partner for a year. And COVID hit a few months later, which was a really weird position to be in, because we were completely out of FreeUp within 60 days. We didn't really have any business ideas, because all we had done for the past 4 years was focus 24/7 on FreeUp, and we were stuck inside with nothing to do, and you can only watch so much Netflix, and we had to cancel all our travel plans. So we started brainstorming ideas, and a buddy of mine named McAllister reached out and said, hey, I think a lot of people could benefit from you teaching them how you hire VAs, because one of the cool things about FreeUp when we sold it is we had an 8-figure business with no US employees. Our entire internal team was 30 full-time VAs in the Philippines. We had thousands of VAs and freelancers on the platform, but our internal team was 30 people. And so we came up with this course called Cracking the VA Code that taught people how we interview, onboard, train, and manage VAs, and gave people our interview questions, our meeting templates. And like all of our other businesses, we treat it as an MVP. We don't know if you're going to like it or hate it. And we sold it at a discount, and we said, hey, if people hate it, we're just going to refund everyone and move on to something else. And the reviews were great. People liked it. They were able to plug it into their business quickly. So we built it into our membership and added our SOPs to it. And that has become a nice passive income stream for us, while also building a really cool community that we get to be a part of and help people hire, because we struggled to hire. When I was 20, I had no idea how to hire people or interview them or manage them or anything. So it's been kind of cool to give back there, and just kind of kept adding to it so people get a lot of value out of it. So that kind of came about 6 months or so after selling FreeUp.
And I'm sure I'm sure that every hire was a good fit, right? Like you probably had good hires and then bad hires. So that's part of the experience, because I also was in a position where I was hiring people, right? I hired a VA for my business. I used to work in a restaurant, so I would hire employees for the restaurant. But not every hire is a right fit, right? How was the onboarding situation with them?
Yeah, I mean, hiring is the best thing you could do to change your business. If you hire A players, if you hire good people, it makes everything that you do easier. And if you have a good hiring process that's repeatable, then hey, if I need a customer service rep, within a month, I'm able to hire them and have them going. And on the flip, it's also just addicting. Like hiring good people makes you want to hire more and delegate more and focus on better tasks, and making bad hire wastes your time and money and makes you never want to hire anyone again. And turnover is also a killer for small businesses. When you hire A people and you invest time and money and energy into training them, you got to be able to keep them around. I mean, turnover can set you back months, even years, and cost you a lot of money. So for us, like a key is finding those A players that have the skill, but also have great attitude and communication, but then keeping them around for years and getting them to buy into the company. With FreeUp, the people we hired in the first month were with us all 4 years. We had very low turnover, and same thing with our other businesses. So that's really what we preach to our Outsource School members, is like find those A players and figure out how to keep them around. And it's not just money, because there's always someone out there that can pay your people more than you can. So if the only thing you're competing on is money, you're going to have a good amount of turnover. You got to get them to buy into the company, show appreciation, give them ownership, figure out what they care about, and make sure their job reflects that. And that's a big part of everything that we do.
Interesting. So I really like how you touched on the retention aspect of it. And it just can't come down to money, because like you said, there's always somebody who can pay more than you. So you got to get them to buy into your company, your values, your vision, even maybe. So that's how you keep people. But the question I have is, for someone looking to hire their first VA in order to free up their time, what does an A player look like to the uninitiated, someone who's never hired before?
Yeah, so it's that trifecta of skill, attitude, and communication. So with skill, a good example I give is I had a client with FreeUp who ran an e-commerce business selling car parts, and he wanted to hire a customer service rep. You don't want to have to teach someone cars and then teach them customer service and then teach them how you want it done. You want someone who already likes and knows cars, who has 5 years of customer service experience, hopefully e-commerce experience, and then teach them how you want it done. So that's really what you're looking for from a skill side. You don't want a newbie virtual assistant. I get that everyone wants a chance, but a lot of times VAs don't even know that they like being VAs until they've done it for years and years and years. So that's what we look for skill. But a common mistake people make is they only hire for skill. They hire really talented people with a lot of experience, but then it doesn't work out, and they're sitting there wondering why. And that's because those people don't have the right attitude, or they don't have the right communication skills. So for communication, yes, I want them to be able to speak English at a high level, but I also want them to be able to respond quickly and get on the same page quickly, and not talk in circles, and be able to get direct answers to questions and understand what they're saying. So one of the ways we teach people to interview most of the time when you work with VAs, it's on Slack, is to do a Slack interview with the VA. So you see how quickly they respond, whether you can understand what they're saying, whether there's a lot of back and forth, whether they answer your questions directly, and vice versa. If it's a phone call role, you want to do that interview via Zoom or via phone call. So really making sure they have that communication skill. That's a common mistake people make if they're hired for the first time. And then attitude. We avoid people that only care about money, kind of like why I mentioned before. But if they don't care about money, what do they care about? Is it stability? Is it growth? Is it becoming a leader? Is it a company that they care about? Those are the kind of people that we look for. And we want people that love self-improvement, love learning, love reading books on the side, people who want to be a part of something and not just have a job. And when you find that trifecta of skill, attitude, and communication, that can be a game changer for your business. And that's how you really find an A player.
Super. So let's say I'm looking for a VA, right? For something really specific. And then your job basically was to go find that person for me, correct?
At FreeUp, we would place you with a VA. At Outsource School, we just give you our hiring process, and we have a bunch of partners, including FreeUp, that you can actually get the VA from. But if someone gets you a good VA and you don't know how to interview them, onboard them, train them, and manage them, that doesn't do you much good. Don't forget, there's 3 types of people you can hire. You got followers, doers, and experts. Experts are like the consultants and agencies with their own processes. Doers are the freelancers, the specialists, graphic designers, writers. They do one thing. And then the followers are the VAs. They have years of experience, but you have to teach them how you want it done. You're not just hiring a customer service rep and saying, hey, go do my customer service, or hiring someone for lead generation and saying, go find me leads. You have to have a lead process that they follow, and they can bring experience to the table to help, but they're there to follow your process. So you need to be hiring. You need to know what you're doing hiring wise if you want to have a good experience. And not every good VA is the best fit for every single company out there. So you need to be able to make sure they're a good fit for your company. And if you're hiring VAs for the first time, start small, start 5-10 hours a week, but also start with a task that isn't going to mess up your company. Start with a task that's not going to mess up your company if it goes wrong. Like, for example, I go on a lot of podcasts. One of our most popular SOPs, Outsourcing, is the podcast outreach formula, getting a VA to do research and pitch podcasts for you. That's a pretty awesome place to start if you're interested in going on podcasts, because you're going to learn a lot just hiring a VA for that. That's going to help you for more important roles like customer service. And if the VA fails and they don't get you on any podcasts, it's not going to cost you very much. And there's no real harm to your business. Those podcast hosts aren't even going to remember who you are in 6 months. So that's kind of how I encourage people to start something small that isn't going to affect your company if it goes wrong. Gain the confidence, gain the experience, build some systems, and then hire for more important roles.
Interesting. So you've mentioned the Philippines a couple of times. There's a multitude of countries that you can hire inexpensive but valuable VAs from. Why the Philippines for you?
Yeah. So first of all, if you're hiring VAs for the first time, I don't recommend hiring 2 people from the Philippines, 2 people from Pakistan, 1 person from India, 1 person from South America. You're just adding a lot of extra work to your plate. They have different time zones, different communication styles, different cultures, and getting them all to work together, not impossible, just very challenging for someone who has never hired a VA before. So you want to pick one place. And if you're going to pick one place, Philippines is a great place to start, not just because the cost of living is, but they speak English at a high level. They learn English in school. They're all about family, and I like building a family inside my company. That's a way to keep people around and get them to like each other. They're used to working U.S. time zones, and working for U.S. companies is a big part of their culture. If they're not VAs, the BPO industry or call center industry is a big part of their jobs that are available in the Philippines. And at Outsource School, we in our free trial, we have a course called Hiring for the Philippines 101, and it kind of goes through all that stuff. So there are great VAs all over the world, but for me, Philippines is a great place to start with the least amount of learning for someone hiring a VA for the first time.
And if someone was looking to hire from the Philippines, just as a benefit to avoid surprise, what can you tell us about the 13th month in the Philippines?
It's 13th month is essentially whatever you pay them a month at the end of the year. Think of it as like a Christmas bonus. You just pay them an extra month at the end of the year. Connor, my partner, and I have actually tweaked that. And the way we do it is very close to the equivalent dollar-wise of the 13th month, but we do it at the halfway part and at the end of the year. So divide it in two and do half and half. The reason for that is sometimes you'll get VAs who, let's say, want to leave your company and they just wait until they get the 13th month and then they dip out right afterwards. So we do it at the end of the year, or the halfway part at the end of the year, so that they always know that like a bonus is right around the corner. And we use bonuses, and this is what we teach in Outsource School, as a way to show appreciation, which again reduces turnover, and also give them challenges and feedback to improve upon. And if you're only doing that once a year, that's tough. So we break that up into the half year and end of the year. And for team leaders and certain roles and depending on performance, we might even add another bonus in there. Like with our bookkeeping business, I'm not a bookkeeper. My business partner's not a bookkeeper. So the first year of our bookkeeping business, there was a big learning curve. We were asking a lot out of our team. They were working extra hours. So we threw in some extra bonuses throughout the year to show extra appreciation, give them more feedback. That was temporary. Now we're back to the half and half. But my point is the 13th month is a very common if you have an in-person job in the Philippines, but you can tweak that in your own way if you're hiring someone from the Philippines for your remote business. But you should give some kind of bonus to that equivalent just because that is the norm.
Yeah, and if you give them that bonus, and I'm sure they're gonna stick around a little more because they're gonna get it next year, probably, right? Especially if you take care of them, like how you say, they become a family at that point, right? Or you're trying to build a family with them. So I know entrepreneurship is not always happy. There's not always like the best things that happen with you. What are some of the struggles that you had to face in your entrepreneur life?
Yeah, I think sometimes when you go on podcasts, you talk about the wins, and don't worry, I've had plenty of losses, plenty that have not gone my way. So when I was running this Amazon business, year 1.5, I'm on top of the world. I'm making more money than a college kid should. And the way I had my business set up is I had this one college kid who I had trained for 6 months running all parts of my business, customer service, listing products. And on the flip side, I had found this one manufacturer and built a great relationship with them. And they were doing 90% of our sales. And so I got this one person running my business. I'm able to take time off. This manufacturer is crushing it. I know I'm making good margins. So I take my first vacation in a 1.5 years, and I go there with my business partner. And on the first day of my vacation, I kid you not, I get 3 phone calls. The first call was from the manufacturer saying that they were decided to sell directly on e-commerce and they didn't want to work with me anymore. So they cut me off right there. Then I got a call from my manager of the day, a college kid, telling me that his parents wanted him to focus on school and he wouldn't be able to work with me anymore. So 6 months of training down the line. And then just to top it off, I get a call from my accountant saying someone had filed a fake tax return in my name, stolen $40,000 from the government, and I was going to have to deal with that mess when I got back. So I went from this ultimate high, like I'm 20, no one can touch me, I'm on top of the world, to let's start everything that I built for the past 1.5 years all over again. But I learned a very valuable lesson about diversity. And when I came back, I started reaching out to a lot of manufacturers and building a lot of relationships, and eventually had hundreds of manufacturers we were working with. And that wasn't the last manufacturer that dropped me, but the next time it happened wasn't that big of a deal. I also learned about compartmentalizing and hiring one person or 2 people for customer service, 2 people for listing products. And so when someone would quit, it wouldn't take 6 to train them. I could get a new person going within a month. And the tax return thing, I have a PIN number that I have to input in my taxes for the rest of my life to say it's actually me, but it didn't actually cost me any money. The government lost $40,000. But that's just one example of like an ultimate low that you go through as an entrepreneur. And I think at the beginning, when things are going well, you think you're on top of the world. And when things are going poorly, you think that you're going to end up homeless. And as you kind of go and you become a little bit more experienced, you kind of realize, hey, when things are going well, you got to stay focused and look for things that could go wrong and get ahead of stuff. And when things are going poorly, you got to trust the process and trust you and your team's ability to pick it back up. So you kind of be numb and a little bit more level as you gain more experience.
And that's really what it is. It everything kind of steadies out. I was talking about this on one of the last episodes. After you've cycled, right? You've built it up, you've had struggles, or you lost it all and you've built it back up again. You start to believe in yourself. You start to understand the processes that are required to create a successful business. And it goes from a very up and down in the early days to more of a steady. There's still up and downs in the entrepreneurship game, but it's more steady. And those failures or those struggles or those instances where someone rips you off for $40,000 or the government offer $40,000 in your name, those are really the things that build the mental fortitude, the strength, and the thick skin that allow you to move forward. So a few minutes ago in this interview, you mentioned that you're not a bookkeeper, your partner's not a bookkeeper. So how does one take that lack of experience and decide, hey, we should start a bookkeeping school in the form of a bookkeeping business in the form of econ balance and accounts balance?
Yeah, so we kind of started this off by saying I like boring businesses and I like businesses that have big markets. I don't want to create the next Uber for every person that comes up with Uber and creates a market that doesn't exist. There's a million other people that think there's a market, but there's not really a market, and they learn that the hard way. So just like every entrepreneur needs to hire, every entrepreneur one way or another needs to be doing bookkeeping and do their own books. And we also look at bookkeeping as something that's going to be around for the next 30 years. It checks other boxes like reoccurring revenue, big market, like I talked about. And I think sometimes you get that situation where the person who's a really good baker isn't necessarily the best person to be running a bake shop. And a lot of bookkeeping companies are run by bookkeepers, and they struggle with the entrepreneur parts of it, which is hiring, strategy, marketing, SEO, processes, customer service, all the things that on paper, Connor and I are very good at. Obviously, we still need to execute it, but through a lot of brainstorming, and after we launched Outsource School and that became a nice passive business for us that didn't take a lot of time, we spent the next year plus just brainstorming different business ideas. And we didn't really like anything that we came up with. But we always kind of circled back to finances. We like finances, both personal finances and business finances. We know how important bookkeeping was to not only selling the company, but also just making good decisions every single month. And so we kind of came up with the idea of launching our own bookkeeping service. And obviously to do that, we have to hire bookkeepers. So we spent the first few months hiring a controller here in Denver and building our bookkeeping team. And like anything else, we always do a minimum viable product. So we offered a bunch of people 2 months of free bookkeeping, and we were fortunate enough that people knew us from Free Up and knew that we take good care of our customers, and people gave us a shot. And if they hated it or they didn't stay on after 2 months, again, we would have just shut it down and moved on to something else. But people really liked it, and we ended up building a really good bookkeeping team. So it's a combination of brainstorming. We did a lot of market research. We interviewed over 100 entrepreneurs. You can find those interviews on our blog to see who the competitors are. What do they like in their current bookkeeper? What do they want out of a bookkeeper? Stuff like that. And then doing that MVP with some kind of free trial, getting feedback and improving from there.
Yeah, when I first started my business, the first year I didn't do any bookkeeping, I didn't do any accounting, like I didn't know where I was spending the money, where I wasn't spending the money, and that was just a mistake because I was so new with this business, right? And I know there's a lot of listeners out there that are also beginners. You get me? What are some of the tips that you can give somebody starting a business and let's say is gaining traction? You get me? There's money coming in, that you're reinvesting the money. What are some of the tips that you can give those type of people?
Yeah, so there's no situation where you should be doing your own bookkeeping as an entrepreneur. First of all, it's a terrible use of your time, especially in year one. Even when your revenue is low, your time needs to be focused on sales, marketing, expansion, strategic decisions, hiring. That's what's important. And if your time is being spent in the wrong places, that's a killer, even early on, especially early on in your business. And then second of all, most entrepreneurs are not good at bookkeeping. I mean, I can't tell you how many entrepreneurs do their own books and then they just have to pay way more for someone else to clean up the mess that they created down the line. It's always cheaper to just have someone do it from day one. And it kind of blew my mind when we started our bookkeeping business. There were all these people selling courses on teaching entrepreneurs how to do their own bookkeeping. you should not be taking a course on how to use QuickBooks. That's not a skill set that you need to learn as an entrepreneur. You do need to learn how to read an income statement, a balance sheet, and a cash flow, and make decisions off of that and run a good monthly finance meeting. But you don't need to know what buttons to press in QuickBooks, how to reconcile an account. That's not what you need. So I think veteran entrepreneurs understand that. They know, hey, bookkeeping is a necessary expense. It's something that should be factored into any business plan you create for any new company. And you're not going to go out of business because of your bookkeeping expense. I mean, if you're a small business, like our bookkeeping starts at $2.99 a month, there's cheaper people than us out there, I'm sure. But you're not going to go out of business because of a few $100s a month's expense. You will go out of business because you don't know your numbers, or you're making bad decisions and because you don't know what the numbers are telling you. So that's kind of my mentality on it. And like I said, hire a bookkeeper, free up on day one before we were super profitable was one of the best decisions I ever made. And that's coming from someone that kind of went through it with our Amazon business. I started off doing it myself. Then I hired a college kid who wasn't a bookkeeper to do it. And that was even a bigger mess than me doing it. Then I would dump it on my CPA at the end of the year. And every tax season was stressful. And I didn't know how I was doing until the end of the year. Then I tried hiring a bookkeeper quarterly and to save money. But every time I saw the books, it was 3 months too late to make any decisions. And then finally I realized, okay, you need a bookkeeper every single month. And that's really what I preach and what I've personally done in every business that I start.
Yeah, I think earlier in the interview, I talked about bookkeeping and the importance of knowing your numbers, especially if you're going to reinvest in your business, whether that be through ads and stuff like that. But what you said was really interesting, and it's kind of like a right brain, left brain thing. If we're simply organic marketers, we're out there, we're creating content, then we're very creatively focused, right? So the bookkeeping side of it, the number side of it, is the exact opposite. So if we can just outsource that, let somebody else handle that who's qualified, then we can kind of tap more into the creativity and hopefully bring in more attention, more leads, more traffic, and that will help grow the business. When you were talking about Outsource School, I just want to jump back really quickly because you mentioned something that may have gotten overlooked and I could picture being extremely valuable to folks. You mentioned a free course at Outsource School. What does that look like, and how would someone get a hold of that if they wanted to dive into that area of their business?
Yeah, so we have a lot of free resources at Outsource School. We have a free trial, which has that Hiring for the Philippines 101 video. You can grab that right at the bottom of our site. We have a free hiring packet that comes with stuff like our VA calculator and our case study that tells you what hires we make every single year of our company. So if you just go to Outsource School, there's a bunch of free resources. We have a blog there that we're constantly posting free stuff in there. And obviously, if you want like our exact interview questions, onboarding questions, meeting templates, firing checklists, all that kind of stuff, you can join Outsource School and become a member.
Cool. Awesome. So what are your, I guess you could say your short-term goals and your long-term goals for like Econ Balance?
Yeah. So, I mean, right now we have these 3 companies and I'm about to go on paternity leave. So my short-term goal is to learn how to keep a baby alive. That's what I'll be doing for the next few months. And so, yeah. And then from there, I mean, Connor and I want to grow a portfolio of businesses that run without us, that are in boring sectors that help other entrepreneurs. So we've got some other ideas we're working on. Nothing is probably going to launch until the beginning of next year, but we don't necessarily see us like selling any of these companies. Obviously, if someone comes to us with an offer, you got to listen. But we look at it as we want to build profitable cash flowing companies that we can build a portfolio of. And we look at the companies we have now as a good foundation of the core of our portfolio that we can build off of. So that's kind of what we focus on short term and long term.
So it's a real goal to just create the portfolio then and use the processes that you've kind of perfected over the years to test the market, interview the market, find holes, and then implement businesses that satisfy those needs. Is that kind of the idea?
Yeah, I mean, not only like processes and our hiring process and all of that, like we have an organic marketing blueprint that we didn't even talk about. Everything from our affiliate programs to partnerships to podcasts to content to backlinks to getting reviews. Like it's the same thing that we use for all of our companies, that if we find a good market with a good opportunity, that we can plug that marketing blueprint in along with really good hires to grow. So then it's just about having the right ideas or find the right businesses and market to plug that into.
So you have affiliate programs for all of your businesses. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's a big part of it. So free up, one of the other good decisions we made is we started a referral program from day one. It was 50 cents for every hour we billed to someone that came for you forever. So if someone hires a VA, let's say you refer someone to free up and they hire a VA for 40 hours a week, you just get $20 every week going forward. And by four, paying out like $400,000 in affiliate money a year. So that's a lot of 50 cents. And with Outsource School, we pay out 40% for anyone you refer that signs up. For our bookkeeping businesses, you get $50 a month reoccurring for as long as someone's a client. And a big thing of affiliate programs is, A, we like to make it unique and reoccurring. B, we want something memorable, and we want to make people remember it by saying it at the end of every sales call. It's on the bottom of our invoices. It's PS at the bottom of every person in our company's email address. It's mentioned on our podcast. Like, it's everywhere over and over. It's an exact page on our website that we'll send people to. We make it easy for people to track when they sign up as a client. Affiliate link already generated. They don't even have to use the affiliate link. They can refer people to us or have someone sign up and mention their name. We'll give them credit. So that's kind of the basis of everything that we do. And then everything else kind of breeds off of it, whether they want to be an affiliate or not. If you go on a podcast or you build a partnership or you do a guest post blog article, you can use that affiliate program as a core of everything.
Yeah, that's super cool that you're able to do that, And then also, I feel like every company should have an affiliate program for its own company, honestly. I mean, that affiliate marketing is the best thing that anybody can do. And plus, you're going to get more clients in the future just by doing that, So if anybody listening out there, you have a business, you should have a referral program for your business. Just like Nathan have it as well.
Absolutely. So
when you are looking towards the coming of your first child here, or your little baby, first of all, do you know if you're having a boy or a girl yet?
Yeah, it's a boy.
Okay. Do you have a name picked out?
I do, but I'm not going to share it on this podcast. I don't know if I have my wife's permission to do that. But we do have
yeah, we better not. We better gloss over that really quickly. That we don't have permission from the wife. How do you anticipate your life is going to change? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know if I've really wrapped my mind around it. I mean, I'm sure it will change. The thing to keep in mind is my wife and I, we both work from home. So like that part of it, we're always going to be around. We kind of had that same experience with foster kids. Like we're always around. And yeah, I mean, I'm sure there will be more like time away from work and family time, but I kind of make an effort to do that anyway and put away my phone at the end of the day and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, it kind of changes everything. I feel like as an entrepreneur, especially, you're very focused on your own goals, your own dreams, your own aspirations. And all of a sudden you've got a kid that you want him to have a good life and find happiness and whatever he's into. He might hate entrepreneurship and want no part of it. You never know. So I'm sure it'll be a big learning experience for me. And I'm just excited for the opportunity.
Yeah, I'm excited for you too. I mean, having a kid, your own kids is such a blessing. It's such a great feeling, and I think you're gonna do great things with your family also. So, well, something that me and Brian like to do at the end of our episodes, we like to turn the tables around and see if you had any questions for us. So, if you do, awesome. If you don't, then we can just close out right here.
Yeah, give me some parenting advice. I could use it. What should I know? I heard they basically take care of themselves.
Yeah, it's pretty easy. You really don't have to do a whole lot. I'll tell you that you said one of my main goals with my kids, and just for reference, for those who don't know, I have a 9-year-old boy and an 11-year-old girl, and I hate to give parenting advice because it's such a hard and unique job, and there's no right or wrong way to do it, but my goal has always been to figure out what they like and help them achieve that. And one of the ways I do that is offer them opportunities to try new things. For example, my son has done hockey and football and taekwondo, and my daughter has done basketball and softball and soccer and rides horses and all those things. And, when I was a kid, it was like, commit to something and go all in on it was kind of the advice. Well, I don't think you have to be afraid of them trying something, you investing tons of hours in this process, and then them deciding they don't want to do it anymore, because I think that's a good decision-making skill for them to learn. And what you'll notice, one of the few things I know is what you'll notice is when they find something that they love, you don't have to wake them up to go to it. You don't have to remind them that it's coming up, and they just go all in on their own. And if anyone's going to become great at something, which is what I think we hope for our children, great at something they love, they're going to have to want to do it on their own. And so for my son, it was Taekwondo. Kid absolutely loves it. He never says, I don't want to go to class today. He's always there. He comes home, he folds up his belt, he hangs his medals. He's just all in. And for my daughter, it's horse riding. She's never wanted to skip a lesson, even when it's 110 degrees in Texas. She's just like loves it. And I think if you can just try to help foster what their real desires are, then they're going to end up being great at it.
Yeah, it's such a unique experience.
Sorry.
Yeah. It's such a unique experience, just how Brian said it, everybody can tell you this is going to happen, this is not going to happen, you should do this, you should do that, but at the end of the day, you're going to basically learn as you go, there's no a book, especially like, let's say you're starting a business, nobody really tells you how to start a business, right? But it's just such a unique experience, and I think you'll do great. I mean, just take it day by day, and it's going to be amazing.
Appreciate it. Well, wish me luck, and I'll let you guys know how it goes. But I appreciate you having me on the podcast.
Yeah, it was great to have you.
There you go. So before we let you go, how can we find you? How can the listeners find you?
Yeah, follow me on LinkedIn, Nathan Hirsch. I post a lot of content every day about the boring parts of business, hiring and bookkeeping. You can go to Outsource School, grab our free trial there and our hiring resources. If you're interested in a bookkeeping service, go to accountsbalance.com, mention this podcast, you get 2 months free. And I'm pretty easy to find online anywhere.
And thank you once again, Nathan, for spending an hour of time with us, coming on the show, sharing your information, your advice, your tips, your tricks. Good luck with the new baby as it comes along. You're going to enjoy it, and I'm super excited for you. And thanks everybody who tuned in with us today. We'll see you all on the next episode of the Evolved Marketing Podcast.